I know where you are by the crazy shade behind you.
Lucas, you're muted, buddy.
All right.
Okay.
There. Yep. Part of it
There's
now.
there's Kevin. Hey, Kevin.
Okay. I'll be in here if you need anything. Let me know.
Yeah, stay tuned. Hey, Kevin, can you hear us? Not sure he's talking.
Hello.
Oh, we got you.
All righty. Takes a while to go through and figure all this out here.
It does. I got to remember to hit the space bar to mute me or unmute me.
Yeah.
A little snow out here. Is any in town?
It's all gone now. There was maybe quarter inch, half inch, but it disappeared quick.
We had a little more than we did. We had about 5 flakes stacked up on each other all across the ground. It was a skiff, but the mountains got hammered.
Yeah, and it looks like they're maybe still.
Hi, Paige. Is that, are you on? Can you hear us? Your lips are moving. You got to hit the trigger to unmute you.
Mute. There we go. Bill, good morning.
You can do that by the trigger, or you can leave it on all the time. But if you leave it on all the time, you got to be careful what you say.
I'm I'm used to that. I'm used to that. We try to do that as much as we can, actually.
We'll stand by for a few minutes. A couple more that are going to dial in.
Okay.
While we're waiting here, let me introduce you to Lucas Epp, Page. He's the new commissioner, been on the job for, I don't know, has it been 3 months already?
Almost 90 days, somewhere around there.
Ah. Lucas, nice to meet you.
Likewise, Paige.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Condolences would be more appropriate, but
In some cases, it is, isn't it? I'm
Bill, who
expecting
else?
Ann
Yeah.
Barthrop will be on here in a minute, and so will a couple others, I believe. Once Ann's in, she's got some of the history. I want to bring everybody up to date with Lucas, especially. There's Ann. Can you hear us, Ann? Tip your screen down and hit your space bar to say yes.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Got you loud and clear.
Good. Hi, Lucas.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning.
And Ann, you've got Paige sort of on the right now.
Oh, hi, Paige.
Hi, Ann. Nice to see you today. How are
Yeah,
you?
I'm doing good.
And we've got Jordan's otter pilot, and I'm not sure who that is. Is that you, Jordan Benson?
Yeah, I just ignore that. Now all that is an AI.
That's what I thought. Here, let's give it about 2 more minutes, and if not, we'll get started. We'll start at 5 after.
This is Kevin. I think I got my sound issues resolved again. Can you guys hear me?
Got you now.
Yes.
All righty. Yeah, I had you once and I lost you. So see if we can't keep it now.
Yeah, it sounds good so far. Hey, Rich, glad to see you joined. Can you hear us, Rich?
Yep, I'm here.
Good, and we can hear you too. Everybody, we start at 5 after, and you made it just by a whisker.
Well, you got the fanciest backdrop behind your video screen there.
Yes, I love me wall. Everybody's
Yeah.
got one. All right, well, let's get started. Let me give everybody an update here, what we're doing and why and how we got to where we are, mainly for Rich has been involved a little bit previously, and of course, Lucas hasn't been involved at all. Ann's been involved intimately from day one. And and I know Paige, I don't know when you got involved, but it's been over a year ago, maybe 2 now.
About a year ago.
Okay, so for Lucas, this is sort of a primer here for you. We got started, I'll shoot back 3-4 years ago, I think it is, and it was with the underfunded courts because we got in a jam. Basically, it's not a jam; it was a predicament we wanted to solve, and that was getting safety into the courtroom as best we could, and the underfunded courts are really behind us, and I really appreciate their support. As a matter of fact, Audrey Bowler is our grant administrator with them, and I just got off the phone with her a few minutes ago. She's been great. They've granted us a couple extensions on the grants we have because we've gotten, we went to the voters to try to get a justice center going with the jail and a courtroom at the same time because it made sense. And we had a lot of support, a lot of good drawings. And Lucas, at some point, I'll get Ann to pull up some charts, and she can talk through the design a little bit with us. not this meeting necessarily. Also, we had land that we managed to pick up because part of the grants were to search for where we were going to put this center, this courtroom. We know we wanted to divorce ourselves out of this old building that we're in now and make that, maybe that'll become the commissioner's conference room at some point. That'd be nice. But safety was the issue. The hallway was crowded. The prisoners were brought in chains through the one side of the hallway where was the defendant, and the other side was the plaintiff. And the prisoner walks through. The judge came through the same way, and a lot. The propane tank out back is too close to the wall. Lots of things that we fixed, and we had a series of grants. And right now I think it was 4, maybe 5 different grants that we received. And we're on our last 2 now that we got the extensions for. And that's what, after we failed to get this on the ballot, we got it on the ballot, we failed to get it across to the people. And we learned a lot of lessons from that. We know better ways of presenting it now. And also we learned that given the economy and given the criticality of the courtroom issue, it's better to focus on it, not to try to bite the whole big elephant at one bite, and and we've got a good relationship with the jail, and Rich can bring Paige up to speed what we're doing on that here in a minute or two. But we are renting space and moving prisoners down to Fremont County and back and forth. That's working out pretty well. And then Rich is contemplating making a bed and breakfast on the off time for the experience of your lifetime, because people are breaking into our jail because he has such a great cook over there. They want in. But so that's the big picture. We have 2 grants totaling $37,425 between the 2 of them. I did talk with Audrey. We have until the 20th to get the report into her of December, and we have then to invoice, so we can invoice at any point the remaining dollars that we have that we need, and that'll be looking to you, Paige, to meet that deadline, which we discussed earlier shouldn't be too big a problem. And Paige will bring his presentation, will show us that when we came back off of that with the team that we had after the election failed to produce anything, we revamped it, decided to attack the courtroom only. That's what Paige has been working with, courtroom and a conference room and maybe some offices in it. He'll show us that in a minute. And we did get the land. I want to make sure everybody understands we own the land right now on a lease to purchase deal. We've got 6 acres, roughly 5 point something. We were given 2 acres gratis from the Haga family, and then they granted us a loan for the remaining couple acres for 1% interest rate. So we've got a really good deal. We've been making payments on it yearly, and we're about halfway through that. Now we'll be owning it free and clear. The beauty of it also is we also own the taps for water and power. There's 2 taps each, I believe. And we need to make sure when we get ready to plop it on that ground, we don't plop it, we plop it down in the right place. That's been surveyed and we know where everything is now. So I think with that, Paige, would you introduce yourself? And on it today, we've got the 3 commissioners, Kevin Day, Lucas Epp, and myself. We've got Ann Barthrop, who has been really the administrator for the committee as we've gone through all this, and so and you, of course. So go ahead, Paige. It's your show.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that. Commissioners, very nice to see you today. Sheriff Smith, Ann, thanks for your time. As Bill discussed back in. We've tried to work with Custer County since pre-2018, 2019, back in 2015. We have tried to do some space planning for y'all, and Custer County's always kind of been on our board of projects that we've wanted to help be successful. And I know years ago when we presented who we are as a firm, Riley Johnson is a RJA. Now, we're a firm that we specialize in justice architecture, and we do courthouses and jails, and we've worked in upward of 35 counties here in Colorado. Right now we have some projects going on over in Otero County, some work up in Lake County, with the underfunded courts, as well as some of the bigger counties here on the Front Range right now, doing some more detention type work at this time. So we recently did a courtroom a couple years ago down in at the Fremont County Courthouse. Worked with Lisa on that, so we have a really good working relationship with Lisa, and we do know the state courts folks pretty darn well. So to that end, Bill was in touch and mentioned told me about the rest of the grant money, and I sent a proposal letter back to Bill a couple of weeks ago now, and gave him a plan as to what we think we could do to help you all out the best, thinking about the election in 2024 and how to position you in the best possible way, so that you don't have to spend any money outside of this grant to have the presentational materials and understanding of what you want to do to get that onto the ballot.
Okay, take one breath there for a quick second, because that's a good point you brought up. That's the goal, and Paige is going to go through what he did present here. That's why I wanted to have this meeting, so everybody's on the same sheet. Also, we're not obligated to go to the voters with it,
Right.
unless it's the right time. And unfortunately, with inflation, what it is, the cost of this thing, it's going to be impacted. We know that. And so what we'll probably do after Paige has this concept, the final design done, and we're ready for prime time with a design that fits the motif of, not like people mistakenly saw last time and they thought it was a space age auditorium that was not a saloon shape or whatever. We fits the motif of Westcliff. So that's the concept he'll come up with. I hope that we'll be able to go forward with, if we decide to.
Exactly, Bill. If you decide to, and that was what I wanted to do in that letter was to basically create a new report based on the one that RJA gave you in 2020, I believe. Bill, is that right? When that master planner, and you might have that record.
Yeah, Lance got it, but I believe it was at the end of that time frame, right before the election.
And we would want to take that document, and if anybody wants to look at that as I'm talking, I can bring that document up right now. We went through, we identified the project, we put it on the site.
Why don't you bring it up? That's a good idea, because Lucas hasn't seen it. And then we can talk about what we're cutting out of that, and go forward with what your sketch is.
So let me see. Zoom works a little bit different. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay. I'm hitting share my screen, Bill.
Can you share it, Jordan?
I'm already doing it. He should have the ability to do it somehow.
Okay. Come on, screen share. There we go. Share. Okay. This was what I've done here is I pulled up the identical document that Bob put together back in September, 24th of September 2020. It's titled, and happy to send this document again to everybody that would like to look through it at the time. But what it did, it set the stage for what the master planning would be, and part of that was taking a look at the plots of land. Bill, correct? We're still in here. This is the property.
That's the property.
And so we took a look at that. Yeah, obviously your courthouse is It's here next to Sheriff Smith, your facility, the newest bed and breakfast possibly on the land. And we started to look at concepts. And let's see. Well, Bob actually first, sorry to take a step back. He went through some space verification. And that space verification is one of these documents we're looking at here. And that was running through the number of staff required, how much square footage there is now for that element, applying a space standard to it. And those pieces helped us gather what the right square footage would be for the whole building, for the courts, jail, sheriff's administration, and all the bits and pieces that come together for that. And this was a pretty extensive list, as you can see. I mean, for the sheriff, we have evidence storage, files, patrol riding reports, uniform storage. A lot of detail went into that. And I think one of the things that we'd want to do with this is we want to do just some verification of that space planning that happened. I know we're not going to do, I know we're talking about the courts and the sheriff's admin. And so those pieces, I think we want to take a look at. But I'm just going to kind of quickly scroll down through some of these things, but we applied jail numbers and again, the bedding, the beds. And I know that you're having inmates down at Fremont County. So that's somewhat of a moot point at this time.
Go ahead and scroll on down to the courtroom.
There's the courts. So we had the courts. We have these items that we've applied to some more recent drawings, but we have a public entry, gun lockers as you come in, the district, the big one obviously is the courtrooms, along with usually typically a sound vestibule. There's the attorney-client conferences to get a quick word in before the meeting, chambers, deliberations, toilet rooms, and there was also a second county courtroom involved in that.
The intent
Lucas,
was, just from a background point of view, was for district court and county court to be conducted at the same time, possibly.
Yeah.
Which we, when we narrowed it down, finally, we eliminated 2 and went with 1, I believe.
We have 1. We pared it all down to just 1. Lucas, is this all making sense so far?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
following along.
Okay.
But
This
right
is just
there
sort of,
is just one courtroom and
Yeah.
facilities for one courtroom. Okay.
we show in the original planning, we show, let's see here, I'll put it, we really would say we're going to do, we look at like, say this, a kind of a typically what we would call a courtroom set.
Okay.
Typically there's 2, but in one courtroom, the key elements of, those are the key elements of being able to hold court.
Okay.
Along with other pieces that we'll see in the drawings. But we went through this list and extensive toilets, IT rooms, all those bits and pieces, and we came up with a size at that point. And Bob made some notes there, same size as the new Alamosa County Judicial Center, which I don't know if any of y'all have seen. That was completed, I believe, 3 or 4 years ago, in a very sensitively, with economics in mind. It was a metal building that we put a very nice face on, and that became the courts, and it became affordable for them to get, I believe, 6 courtrooms. We had space for public defender, probation, all these other spaces. And I know Lisa was critical in helping develop those lists. What we started to do at that point was
That's Lisa. You might mention that. What's Lisa's last name, Ann?
Rowe.
I thought Lisa Rowe.
Lisa Rowe, who is
That was
still the
the
administrator for the
administrator.
judicial district.
That's right.
We took those designs and started to we came up with some, well, sorry, I'll go back up to here. We came up with some overall numbers. We started to make big colored diagrams of what we thought square footage would look like. Different ways to do it, different configurations. Typically with Lucas, we what we like to do is we like to with courts, you typically, if you can, you want to put the detention center attached to it to transport inmates through safely through a secure path to get to a holding cell between courtrooms, and then
Gotcha.
court can happen. And there's a line of security for the public, the inmates, the staff, and the inmates. And we're trying to carefully arrange those pieces together to make that work. So we put ideas down, we get things together, and it ends up in a floor plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was the full build out floor plan of let's go for this would take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Through what years? We were going 25 years out, I think, weren't we?
Yeah, 25 years out. This was pretty expensive, to say the least. And we started at that point. Then the project started getting trimmed back, looking at different configurations for it. And so, like this says, yeah, the floor plan above satisfies the 2039 space requirements. So we started going through those exercises, and once we have that idea, we talk about how the phasing, how you could phase it. Do you build the courts first, the detention center, just the different methodologies of getting that done. And of course, we're always putting it back onto the site and testing how it works. So that brought us to as that plan develops, the next step we take then is we get square footages and we start to put numbers down to things. And this is one of the critical things that along with the plans and the elevations and the site things, one of the probably for us, one of the most important documents would be the total project cost model. And what we do is we take the square footages of the building and the site, and we start to get those, we get input from contractors that are working in the area, that understand what the market's looking like, that have some good projections as to where it's going. And I spoke with Nunn Construction this morning, who helped do the pricing for this study back in 2020. And I spoke with them, and they are ready and wanting to help out again with that effort to look at the building's prices and then project it for when construction would actually start to take place. Because any price we put now on the dollars per square foot of a facility, we need to escalate beyond when it would possibly go to a vote and then when construction could actually begin. So we take a look at the pieces and we try to break them out the best we can, because certain pieces will cost more or less than others. A sally port for a vehicle will cost typically less than a courtroom, but a cells for a jail and a detention center is typically far more expensive than courts or than clerk offices or even just regular office type buildings. So we try to break it down the best we can into those separate pieces and put it all together and think about your professional services, how much that might be, development fees, if there are any, and miscellaneous items. And we add those numbers together. we make sure you have some contingency, and then we think, okay, this could be the price for the whole enchilada, if you will. So, Lucas, we went through a series of these different cost models for different scenarios of what the building could be, and I think, and feel free to hop in at any point if I'm misrepresenting or not getting enough detail in everything.
You're doing fine. I just noticed a picky detail. The geothermal was scratched from the plan.
Yeah, well, exactly. That was scratched at the time, and then I know that that there were some questions that the geothermal went in at the school, I believe, and that wasn't performing well. I read in some old notes, and so we scratched it at that point.
Right.
And so this is this cost tracking model is just in a constant state of evolution. As to what we're discovering, what we know from the site, how we gauge where we're at with the square footage and the building costs, just so that it was pretty alarming for a lot of folks in 2021 when there was a massive spike in escalation of construction, and projects that people were thinking were, say, $10 million were suddenly close to 20 million. And it was pretty inexplicable, and a lot of tough conversations came from that. But the idea here, Lucas, is that we're trying to factor those items into this as we're putting it together, so that down the road your constituents aren't saying, hey, you said 10 million, but now it's 20 million. What's going on?
Okay, hold it right there, just real quick. On that point, a good one to bring up is that it's how you market it too. We learned a lot. We tried. We had briefings. We had tours, but guess what? Nobody came. We had one or two people go to the jail and take a tour and find out. When they did, they said, "Man, we really need a jail." When they got into the courtroom, they said, "Man, we really do need it." But nobody came until all of a sudden they get the blue book to vote, and they say, "What is going on here?" And it was a shock to say, "Why do we need this?" So that's what the big item is. How do you sell it, and how do you present it? And I think we've learned a lot of good ideas that we can get into here in a little later because of that.
That's a great point, Bill. Thanks. Yeah, that's exactly the whole separate piece. We had in Alamosa for their courthouse, when we were getting it ready to go out for a vote, that was billed to the public as a 3-story courthouse with nice Spanish tile red roof, very, 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 it fit right in to Alamosa. But then once the reality came of what could be afforded from the vote, the building was very different, and there was a bit of a different marketing strategy had to happen at that point. But it was the key of what they were, what was being projected out to the population for them to vote on, and what they were voting on too. Right, Bill? Is it
exactly
property
right?
tax?
And that was a big mistake we made, was not getting a better concept picture, because what we've been talking about so far is the floor space. That's what's important, and you can always make it look however you want to make it look. We just didn't take the time to convince anybody by showing them here's a model.
Yeah. So we kept working. This model the cost kept changing. Pieces would come in and out. There's like, say, this note here on the top of this one, revised per Lisa Rowe emailed RJA of 9/20 regarding floor area reduction. So at that point, we're realizing, oh, this is we've taken off more than the project can afford. So we need to start. What do? You substitute size or quality. And so we had to start taking some size out of it, and things like initially the community room at this point, you can see that was taken out of the project. So we kept carrying through those models, and let me just see how many. There was quite a few of those here in the end. So we went through gosh, 5,
Right.
I think, to really get it down this, and like this one, and like this excluded the geothermal, and in the end, you're right, it just went away altogether.
Right.
Um,
And that's for one courtroom and a jail. So now we're going to throw the jail out and start and modularize the courtroom, and that's what we need to see now.
right. So we took that. So then a year ago, Lisa was in touch, and we talked through some of the reductions that needed to happen and what could we do. And so I came down and met. We went through some of these old plans, and we came up with the revised project. And so I'm just going to jump over to that one now, if nobody minds.
Any questions, Lucas or Kevin or anybody?
Well, I think this is a big question, but my question would be is, and I just know this from experience, moving everybody out of our current courthouse into just offices would be 10 times cheaper than new courtrooms. Is there a feasibility of turning the current whole county building into the new courthouse and retrofitting it to be a new courthouse with all the court services that go along with it, and building a new office complex for all the offices that currently are in there? Or has that been looked at, and am I just blowing smoke and don't know what I'm talking about? Or is it
No, good question. We actually looked at that. The problem is, Lucas, we'll go look at the cornerstone. It was right before the Depression when they built this, 1929. And it's built in modules. The rock house was the jail. They hooked onto it. The courtroom was in where the treasure is now. And they moved it. They built onto the side of it to build a new courtroom, and then they updated the courtroom with a heating grant, and the furnace is inside, so they have to turn it off because it's too noisy. So that's not a very conducive to retrofitting it. That's why we ended up, especially given the courtroom security issue and the need to do it sooner than later. And when we will use this, the building can be adapted for some good office spaces, a lot, like you said, cheaper than probably buying new offices outside.
Okay.
And I think, Lucas, and one of those questions, that's a fantastic question you brought up, is the piece, and the most expensive piece at this time that's not a part of this project, though we want to plan it if in someday that were to ever need to be put there, is the detention portion, which that's frankly astronomical pricing. We're seeing right now up in Lake County, we're seeing upwards of $1,400 a square foot for that kind of price. And it's pretty alarming how few beds you can get at that price right now. But again, what we want to plan for is, should in the future commissioners, if a jail was to be added to that, it could happen, and we had thought about that initially.
Okay.
So this is the picture of the existing courthouse now.
Okay.
And I think Bill's right in terms of the viability and the security and the safety for everybody there, that's more of a hazard than, and you can still do nice courts for reasonable pricing and get those courts set up in the right secure configuration.
I gotcha.
So I'm going to jump to about a year ago, after I came up, and we looked through these different scenarios. We talked about it some more, and Lisa Lisa, and I believe it was Judge Hunter at the time.
Yes.
And is Judge Hunter still
It's Judge Winter now.
okay? Okay.
And Judge Hunter, Amanda said she would give her 2 cents if she's asked. She still is interested in helping, but Judge Winter is the district court now.
She's
County
district court in Park County.
Yeah, district in Park County.
Judge
He's up here on civil cases up here.
Got it. Okay. So I'm gonna just hop over to what we came up with last year.
By the
based
way, I
on-
guess we need to bring Paige up speed. We have a new judge that took Amanda's place, and that's Mark Halpin. And he is going to participate in this as well.
Judge Halpin. Okay.
He used to be the bailiff.
Ah. And is Judge Halpin in court every day?
No, they what do they average? A couple times a week, I think.
Yeah, mainly Thursdays.
Okay. Okay, Thursdays. All right. All right. So I'm going to just go to how we pared this down with Lisa and start to talk about those phases. What we talked about, we took off the detention center. We took off, even at this point, it'd be phased with sheriff's admin, but the first phase would be to build the courts and the associated piece with the courts. There would be the courtroom, there'd be clerks, there's small DA presence, small probation presence, and a small holding type facility for the sheriff that could be used as possibly temporary holding to take arrestees, to put arrestees in there and hold them until they can get transported down to Fremont, to the jail there, or do an intox and then release. So that's a part of the plan you'll see. So this is the first phase, was just the courts piece only. And a second phase to that project is a sheriff's administration building and some future, again, we always want to think about a jail if that's ever needed there, so you're just not totally stranded in the future. So we kind of looked at the project in that sense, and I took Lisa's her recommendations, if you will, and we started to work on a floor plan, and we came up with this floor plan.
By the way,
And-
just so everybody knows, it wasn't just Lisa by herself. It was the input of the team.
She was just doing a ton of the communicating with me at the time. But this is what we came up with: a very simple design, so we could get some I guess I really heard your comments about the rendering of the building that you saw from 2020. Like you said today, Bill, kind of that space age type look. And taking that to heart, I wanted to sort of reassemble some of the pieces together so it would be a more classical type geometry. So there could be an expression of a classical expression on the front of the courts that would really fit into the community, that we could talk about the materials you'd want to use and the sort of the shapes and the forms that might look like, but something that looks like it's been there for, it fits right in and it's going to be there for a while and not look out of date in 10 years, like more contemporary architecture might look like. So we came down to one courtroom right in the center, right in the heart of this right in the heart of this structure with the simple public entrance to come in and queue up and run through security, and then either go visit the clerks, go into a small self-help area, and have a meeting before a trial, and then come into a trial kind of in a public realm with access to restrooms and even access to a visitation with an inmate that would be brought up, presumably from Fremont for their trial. I'm guessing, Rich, is that what?
Yeah, so right now we bring inmates from Fremont to the jail or to the courthouse. And the most I've seen at a time is 3, where there'd be 3 separate court proceedings in the same day. So we hold 2 guys here in the sheriff's office, and 1 guy does his piece and rotate them in and out.
Okay. And so this was sort of designed in that manner. So you could you could come in with the vehicle sally port. You can load in your people who are gonna have court that day. There's some dry holding cells. There's a true hardened cell in there for somebody with the toilet and fixtures. They can just be in there, more of a universal type toilet. An intoxilizer room. I know that had been expressed a year ago, the need for that, and a place, a body scanner, as well as just a place for sheriff's deputies to work, get some work done, and oversee the holdings. And then this area would have a direct door into a courtroom where the inmate could be taken out of holding, brought into the courtroom for their trial, and then returned safely back in. The whole back of this court is secured, and in this there's a judge's chambers, as well as a jury deliberation room with their own separate toilet and vestibule to kind of keep the I know that the judge would have the best term for it, but to keep the process intact for trial. And then there would be these other meeting spaces for clerks and a clerk of court with good proximity to the judge for any sort of business transactions that might need to happen. With me, Lucas?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Any
I understand it
questions
all.
so far? This is
No, sir.
about as pared down as we really felt comfortable getting it. And just even looking at it right now, I know I still need to add like a small mechanical room to it. And a few other things, but this seemed to be where we could go bare bones, looking towards a future sheriff's admin building, right, that we had planned out for phase 2 is what you'd be looking
And in
at
that
right
case, would you blow that wall out of there?
here. We'd blow that wall out or part of that wall out. We'd take pieces of this out and connect to it. If there was something interesting in here, we might want to keep it. But yeah, much of this would need to go. But then that still provides you can come in. There's still a nice public corridor to get to, toilet rooms, and then a lobby for sheriff's admin elements, and then a staff entry through the back for secure parking that would be out to what we're looking at now, Plan West. Spots for evidence, patrol riding. So that was the second piece here, Lucas. And what you're seeing here with these red boxes are my just thinking. I'm thinking about how do if there were to ever be a need for another courtroom, how does that work? And that's
Okay.
one of the things we probably would want to vet during the next month. So we came up with this set of 4 drawings. And again, there was a couple site drawings that just showed the phase 1 for the site logistics, just kind of initial thoughts on that. How it would work for phase 2. Then just this courts building itself. And then we finish up with this sheriff's admin area.
Okay, just a quick time hack. Lucas, you have another meeting at noon.
No, I think I'm good.
Okay, so we're good. Does anybody else have a? Because we're pushing 11:45 now.
Ooh, time flies.
I'll be in and out just a couple times. So if you ask me something and I don't respond, I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, press on.
Bill, did you see these drawings, or Rich or Ann? Did you see any of these drawings last year?
Yes, I did see those.
Okay.
Yeah, they came through. Didn't get to talk about it because we got tied up in a lot of other things.
So again, I think this would be our starting point. And we would take a look at at these drawings, vet them, make sure that they work and that they're functional and that they fit for the time frame for hopefully, I don't know, 20 years, 20, maybe 30 years, but also want to make sure that should this facility need to grow, that we have accommodated that at the same time. And there's some pieces you can see that I'm just kind of starting to set up in that in thinking here of, if you took this red box is say a courtroom, and the size of a courtroom, like you move it there, like, well, what, you could put a courtroom here, but then you displace the clerks, and what do you do with the clerks? Or do you build a courtroom on the other side of that holding area and do what's very traditional type picture and that you saw in some of those initial plans of holding area in between? So
And that's
I like the
for
holding
some-
area in between for security. It's easier for me to bring them into the courtroom immediately instead of walking them all around the building trying to get to the.
Yeah, I would agree. So it makes me think, in the long-term future, well, does that mean it's better to have a vehicle sally port up on the north, and you bring them into the holding here, so that should you tack on a future courtroom, you're not blowing out your vehicle sally port that you have right now.
And that sally port could be used for the future detention center if that ever came to be up there.
Exactly. You could use this sally port, and you could drive through it, and then you could kind of almost go 2 ways, right? To a detention center or down into court holding. And it would take other chambers and whatnot, but that follows sort of that more typical layout that we like to get, with that holding in between a set of courtrooms. But again, right now we're at one courtroom. Ann, do you have any questions right now?
No, I agree with Rich that Sallyport was originally thought of to be on the north side, and it sounds like that's the best idea.
Yeah, I think that it makes sense to me to put it up there.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
can see
looks
about
good.
rearranging. The key that we need to make sure we have is that there's this visitation area down here in the south.
Uh-huh. Yeah, as Bill pointed out, and I know everybody has this on their mind, the safety issues are a big concern, and make sure you address those. I think you've done that.
Yeah, that's our biggest thing. And you know, again, what we're trying to make this holding area work in a couple of ways, right? So you know,
Right.
Rich, it works for the sheriff's office. So if you, I mean, I believe some of the input was that you might need to you bring people in for an intoxilization and process them there versus going down to needing to go to Canyon City or somewhere else, right? So that's what we're trying to accommodate that, which is a little unique to a typical courthouse, right? That would be happening more in intake in a detention center versus adjacent to the actual courtroom itself.
So hold on just a second now, Paige.
Yeah.
So what the intent today is not to start making trades necessarily, but it's to point out what has to happen. We need to have a meeting where we can get everybody involved and help understand the trades better so that we come up with that final concept in the time frame we have. What's the next thing you're going to do? There's going to be a couple meetings to follow here before the 20th.
We're going to have to do a couple of meetings, and then I have to get a final square footage to Nunn Construction to do that, and then they can kind of give us the price of what we're looking at, so we get the final document together. But yeah, Bill, there'd be a couple of meetings, and then we need to kind of discuss in a manner of how, you know, what we want to build this out of. Do we want to do something like at Alamosa, where at the core of it, it's a metal building, but it has different pieces applied to it to give it the more traditional courthouse look?
Yeah,
Or
that's
are we looking for
critical, and
something more
that's going to take.
traditional?
That'd be a whole separate meeting.
That's a whole separate meeting. Yeah,
and we need to get people involved to make it fit. I mean, you've been to Westcliff, and
I
you've seen
have.
downtown with the lamps and all that. We need to follow the same motif, basically.
Yeah, we really do. And so, you know, one of the meetings, I just want to kind of show you a piece of what we would discuss in one of the meetings. We'd look at some different courthouses, with different, you know, different levels of finishes, different types of construction, some different sort of configurations, and look at the pricing of those facilities. And I just wanted to kind of give you all a shout. This is something we recently, we're working a little bit with the city of Westminster right now for a courthouse they're doing, and they're in one of the same questions of, they want to have a nice building, but they don't want it to be super nice. And they've talked about things like, hey, this could be a metal building, so let's, you know, talk about that. So we've come up with this sort of little, like a crib sheet, in terms of you know, 4 quadrants of pricing, and one being, you know, say Alamosa County, which is 1 level pre-engineered building, $630 a square foot for construction to start in June of 2025. Another on the other sort of end of that spectrum is something, a courthouse we're finishing up right now in Wyoming, in Converse County, that's, you know, 2 levels, very fine finishes, and that's $843 a square foot, with more traditional steel framing, expensive metal panels, stone, a very sort of a modern a very modern type of looking courthouse,
Mhm.
with that the commissioners wanted there. This is one in Lake County that we just finished the construction documents for. That this was the Lake County was one level with a jail in the back and a pass through an elevator down into the courtrooms and court holding. That has a challenging site with a lot of environmental remediation that has to happen. This was a 2 courtroom facility with clerks and chambers. This had the community room. And this was, $880 a square foot. And again, that's more traditional, like with pressed, Ariscraft pressed stone. And I think Leadville, played a factor into that pricing, quite honestly, because you only have a small window in which to build up there. So that price
One quick note is the Custer County population is 5,000. The Lake County population 7,500. So they're already at that need for the 2 courtrooms.
Mhm.
and they're Rich, as you know, like I think they're about to go to a permanent housing of inmates in other jurisdictions model. Sheriff Speckman is doing that right now because the jail, and this price, frankly, for those this price tag on this building was expensive enough that the commissioners have had to put the project on hold to deal with the financing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be the case with us, I'm sure. We're going to come up with a nice, efficient, good-looking building. And then after the first year, we're going to have to figure out when and how we're going to raise the money, and all that's got to be discussed.
Yeah. So again, we just want to approach that with y'all in the most sensible and logical way that's going to fit what you feel like is the appropriate appetite in terms of money that going to go after to try to get this built. But again, here for Alamosa, it is this is a metal building, but it still has some of the nice elements in there of a courts facility. It's got a nice entry, where to go. It's got the court, a nice secure buffer around it. But very, again, similar elements when you just kind of look in plan and entry through. A couple different directions. The size is different, obviously, but it's got those same pieces that are important in a courthouse. So again, Bill, that would be one of the discussions we'd want to be having. We'd want to look at what did I have? I had another. I'm just kind of pulling up some of the material I've started to pull together.
So you're going to have to come up page with a schedule and
Yeah.
we're going to do between now and the 20th.
Yeah, and some of it is, I want to do definitely, an in-person meeting or two, but we're going to have to do some virtually also, just because we have a lot of material to cover, and especially I think about the image of the courthouse and what it's going to look like, if that's going to be on the forefront of what's going out to the public at some point, is that image that gets created to market your project. So, we're gonna want to talk about courthouses and different, different courthouse motifs. This very brutalistic courthouse in Minnesota, or something, postmodern, darkened view of justice, or here's some regional ones, right? Mineral County and Conejos, and
Now you're talking, you got a fort up there.
yeah. Let's see. I think we even have yours on one of these. We did. There's yours,
Yeah.
Custer County Courthouse, right? It's got a nice, it's a courthouse. So that's one of the things that we'd want to push. But say here down below here in Rio Blanco in Meeker, we took an old school and remodeled that and put a new entry on it, and that became their courthouse, and it's got a distinct public presence that doesn't stick out in the community and look like it's an alien artifact. So that's one of the things we want to do, Bill, too, is just talk about motifs, what the feeling is, what best does, represent Custer County, what's going to be, the best part, like you said, the lampposts, there's got to be a nice scale to it that fits. People have to know where they're going and what it is when they're coming to it. Those sorts of things. So yeah, I need to put a schedule together for the next 20 days, or the next 30 days to get us to December 20th. And I don't know, Bill, does all the work need to be done by then, or is there some stuff that we might need to keep tweaking for y'all?
Oh, it's okay to tweak it, but we need an invoice for the project, and it's okay to finish up later some of it, but the report has to be done and billed by the 20th.
Okay. So what I'm thinking for a report would probably be, again, we cited kind of bring in the appropriate programming documents. We get the floor plans worked out where everybody's happy with the floor plans. We get some three-dimensional concepts into that, so we know what we're wanting to shape the building like. And then I do see probably a little bit of time beyond that for us to really work out, that true look, to get you a final nice rendered image from a couple of viewpoints of what the facility would be. I did take the liberty last year, and I've had somebody already start working on a three-dimensional model of this right now. So we're kind of have done some work in the background to get it moving, so we can start to have that conversation.
We're going to need it because that's how you sell it.
Yeah.
I know that the big prison down there, Supermax, was sitting in a public lobby for years as they tweaked it.
Yeah. So that's generally the plan, and what I'm proposing that we do on our end in the next month.
Okay, go ahead and send us to all the three commissioners for sure. To everybody, give it to Ann. Ann can disseminate it to everybody. But we need to get the ground floor and the schedule and the things we got to do. Just make it happen.
Okay, so I think one of the first things what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the floor plans back out there to everybody and start asking for some review and comment on those.
That'd be good, and maybe we can have that way we can schedule our own meetings with different people with different expertises to go ahead and get good comments, not just one person and taking a risk.
Yeah, and what I could do is I could take pieces of it, and let's say I'll blow up a piece and get that on a document, and then Rich, and you can get this and disseminate it and get feedback, on specifically on sheriff's admin piece. Of course, we'll take all comments on everything, but you can have the folks you would need to focus on that piece. We can have the Judge Halpin.
Like, for example, their page, that Rich's comments would be good, but with the intent that you're going to build that wall that you're going to tear out, or the interior of our only one piece that we are going to build would be a little bit impacted by his comments, right? That's what you intend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but and I'm also saying, like, Mitch has the subject matter experts to look at this, okay, we need, instead of one sergeant, we need two.
Right. That way you're
Or
not doing
we don't,
something that would be wrong with the final design or
yeah,
concept that wouldn't
yeah,
accommodate that later.
exactly. We don't want to have a fatal flaw in it. And the same thing for the clerks.
And you got any thoughts there?
I agree with you. One thing a question I have as you're looking at this is it required to have an IT area in this building?
It
Need
is, and we
something?
have one up in the corner.
Oh, I see. I couldn't see it. Sorry.
Yeah. So we'd have, like, up here in this colored one, and we've got a big
Right.
IT area. I know the state likes to have lots of IT space.
Well, I think we're on the right track, as Bill said. Get this moving forward and have everybody look at it and use their comments to fine tune this.
Yeah.
And be able to move forward. I'm glad you're doing the 3D. I think that's very important. I know that's what sold the federal building.
It'll be very helpful.
Yes.
Once that's fully formed, and we have to have that discussion of what is the construction.
Yeah, and let me get back on Ann's point there. That model that they had, you could take the roof off and look inside it, or you could take a module out of it and say, "Here's look at what it's really inside."
Yeah,
So
that's
think
right.
about it that way.
So is that what I mean, like, when I'm saying 3D model, we're looking at it, we're building it via computer. We're not making a physical model.
If we're going to sell it, we need a model.
Can we do a 3D printer one?
And
Yeah,
it's
we can.
okay, Paige. I know you're hedging because
Don't
of
have to ask
money
me.
cost, but the bottom line is, once we get it nailed down to decide how to sell it, we can. I'm sure the underfunded courts would be willing to take a look at the future. I haven't gotten that far with them yet, but that could be a possibility.
Okay. I'm also just thinking of putting a model together in 30 days is just not possible. But a model, building a actual 3D model would be that'd be a great office project. And to build one for y'all to have.
Sure, that'll work.
Okay. So that would be kind of our next thing, but not a part of this proposal, Bill. We can do virtual shots, we can do interior courtroom shots.
Well, that's fine. We understand that. That's
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
So what I think I'm going to do is then, I'm going to get some kind of informational type packets together, if you will, that show some of the overall plans, these ones we've looked at, these 4 drawings, but then break some space down into smaller pieces to get people's
Okay.
input on.
Right.
I think would be the next most helpful thing to keep
I
the drawing, to
I
keep the
agree.
space planning going.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Any thoughts there, Lucas?
No, I'm just taking it all in.
And
Kevin,
just
Yeah, I'm here. I've got nothing at this point.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Go ahead, Ann, I cut you off.
Oh, it's just another thought that came to me as we were looking at the pictures of the various courthouses. If we're gonna eventually keep the old courthouse, why don't we just follow that theme of design for the front entrance with the new one? Just a thought.
You can probably do that, can't you, Paige, with a pre-stressed concrete slab? Doesn't have to be individual bricks, probably.
Right.
Yeah, I
Even
mean,
just
there's
just the
ways
way
to
the
do that.
windows are and stuff like that. Sorry, Paige, but not the exact whole thing, but because it's one story, but the windows in that door entrance kind of keep the same theme pattern going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, you have the cross, you know, it's a base, you know, and then the masonry above with some of these you know, some ornamentation above the main entry.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's, you know, I looked at it and I thought, oh, it's interesting. Like I thought about Rio Blanco. Granted, that's a different building, but it's a, you know, it's a one-story version where you actually see similarities between the two in a way.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, I think we've got a pretty good start here.
We do. We do. So, Bill, my question for you today was, how do we, you know, I need to just, I'm gonna just get moving,
You need to give
get this
me
stuff together.
yeah, get your plan together and send me you know, we need a authorization to proceed on this. Just put it together, what you need.
Well,
And
I sent you that last week.
okay, does that include everything we need?
That should include everything. I need to get you a schedule, knowing that
Okay,
we're kind of up
let's
against the 20th. But
make sure everybody has a copy of that. Three
okay.
commissioners.
Do you have any, I don't know if we would do this as a continuation of what we had signed in 2018, 2019, or if this is a
No,
new,
no, this is a new project.
okay. Do you have, so if I need to revise my proposal letter, do you have sole source limits I need to be aware of?
No, this is a continuation of what you have. So this is,
Okay,
you know, you've been selected already.
okay. I just want to make sure we're okay there.
Let's revise it and get us. This is a continuation now. We've narrowed it down.
Okay. Then I'll revise that verbiage on my proposal to you, and so that it's clear that it's a continuation.
Yep,
But we've revised the scope. We've got the scope we want. So, okay.
that's why I brought it up. Is get it scoped out.
Yeah, but it's gonna have those same elements you did before. We'll get that full report. That's a good deliverable to be able to get together to get to the state for the
Sounds
fund.
like a plan.
Okay.
Anybody else? Seconds? Anybody?
No, thank you, Paige.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
Rich,
feel
you
free
good?
to write, call any questions you have that come up as right as we close the meeting. If you need to get back to me, feel free to do so. No problem.
Yeah, and everybody don't go through me if you got something specific, because he'll include it in his discussions when we get back together. Just give him your ideas if
Yeah.
something hits you.
Okay.
Terrific.
Do you prefer the email then, Paige?
Email's good. I have, then sometimes it just lets me respond to things late at night as I need to.
That's
Um,
fine. Just checking there.
that-
Thank you.
that would be the best. Phone call to my cell is the second best.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thanks everybody.
All right.
Appreciate it. What time did it end up to be here? 17, not bad.
Not bad.
Twelve
Not bad.
seventeen.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Out here.
Thank you, guys.